Hello fans and friends, and welcome to the RWBY CCG gameplay demo featuring Team Juniper versus Team RWBY. First, when setting up the game, make sure you have adequate space to play, including the 2 home zones and the conflict zone. Then each player puts out their teammate cards. In this demonstration, RWBY or Team RWBY will be player 1, while Juniper will be player 2. In this demonstration, Team RWBY has won the coin toss or dice roll and is going first. It is now their turn 1. Player 1 has used their move of the turn to move Yang into the conflict zone. Then player 1 plays the instant action card Run Wild. Run Wild states whenever you move a teammate, you may move another teammate as well. Player 1 has chosen to move Blake Belladonna into the conflict zone. Player 1 then ends their turn. Player 2 cannot use any teammate abilities as of yet because they need to begin their turn first. Player 2 begins their turn by drawing their card and untapping any characters that may be tired. Team Juniper then discards Handful of Lien, which states, discard this card from your hand and you may ignore any requirements on the next arsenal or character card you play. By doing this, they are able to play a Bullhead without discarding 2 cards. Bullhead states whenever you move a teammate, you may move all teammates to the same location. Player 2 plays Bullhead in their home zone, not attached to any teammate. Player 2 then plays Neptune, the new guy, who is a 3-power 3-aura ally. The requirements are play this card if all of your teammates are on your home zone. It has the effect of when this card enters the field, it deals 5 damage to all brawler types on the field. Since Yang is the only brawler type on the field, she receives 5 damage. Player 2 plays Neptune attached to Lai Ren, attached as so. Lai Ren has a static ability that states, when attached to a character or teammate, opponents cannot assign combat damage to this card. When Lai Ren moves to the conflict zone, his attached ally moves with him as well. Because of Bullhead's effect, all the remaining teammates of player 2 get to move to the conflict zone. Player 2 then initiates the fighting phase. The fighting phase begins with the attackers or player 2 assigning which character they are dealing combat damage to. Pyrrha, Nora, and Jean are all attacking Blake, while Lyren and Neptune are attacking Yang. Yang already had 5 damage on her thanks to Neptune's Enter the Battlefield effect. That damage will be added to Lyren's and Neptune's attack, creating 10 damage total. Now, notice Yang's static ability. When this teammate has 5 damage or more, it is added to its power. Yang now has 14 total power. Now let's take a look at RWBY's active effect. It says, by tapping this card during an opponent's fighting phase, move this card to a target conflict. So we can move RWBY into the target conflict in the conflict zone. Now let's take a look at Blake. Blake has more than enough lethal damage coming into her, but luckily she has a special ability that lets her go back home by tapping. As you can see, she taps and escapes all of that combat damage coming to her. Jean, Pyrrha, and Nora no longer have a viable target. The second step to the fighting phase is the defensive or hitback step. Here, both Yang and RWBY are targeting Nora for combat damage. Lucky for player 2, he holds a blocking the attack action instant. It requires a warrior type in the conflict zone, which Jean is, and prevents damage to target teammate till the end of the turn, preventing all of the damage done to Nora. With no other plays to be made, player 2 simply ends their turn. Your opponent's end phase is a great phase to activate your teammates' activated abilities, such as Weiss's tap to search your deck for a dust card and put it into your hand. Weiss then taps to use this ability. You go search for a dust card of your choosing, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. Then begins player 1's turn 2. He starts by drawing a card and then untapping all of his tired teammates. Keep in mind that damage on teammates stays and does not go away like damage on allies. Player 2 begins their attack phase, and both Yang and RWBY target Jean. RWBY gets an added bonus of +2 for each teammate in the combat zone. This includes herself and Yang. When you calculate the bonuses, Yang gets a +10 to her power, and RWBY gets +4. When you add RWBY and Yang's power to Jean, he takes -20. If you notice, Jean only has 20 aura. Normally he would be defeated, but not for his static ability, which gains him +2 aura for each teammate in the conflict zone. This is gonna keep Jean still alive. Jean effectively has 28 total aura. In the next step, player 2 gets to target each of the attacking characters with defensive damage, as you see with the blue lines. Ren and Neptune and Nora target RWBY, while Pyrrha and Jean target Yang. Under normal circumstances, this would defeat both Yang and RWBY, unless it was, of course, for Weiss's other ability. She can tap and prevent damage to one of the characters, effectively saving them. This can be done only on your turn, not on the opponent's turn. Weiss targets Yang with her protective ability, effectively saving her from being destroyed. However, RWBY is destroyed in the process because she sustains damage equal to that of her aura. She is then placed into the finished pile. Then on player 1's main phase 2, they play Late for Class, which moves all teammates and allies to their owner's home zone. This effectively defeats Jean. Since there are no more teammates under his control in the conflict zone, he no longer can survive, and then they all move to their home zone. After that, player 1 plays their ally, Penny, combat ready. It requires the 3 teammates to be in their home zone to play. You can have 4, but it requires at least 3 be in your home zone to play that card. When she enters the field, her Enter the Field ability goes off that causes all opponents' arsenal cards to be destroyed. The target opponent only has 1 arsenal card, and it's their bullhead. Therefore it is destroyed, thanks to Penny's Enter the Field effect. Then player 1 moves Blake into the conflict zone. Since they didn't use their move on the previous phase, they can move it since you can only use 1 move per turn. Player 1 also uses a dust card for the turn, a water crystal. Water crystals are a handy dust because they open up all sorts of other action moves you can use in the future. Dust cards must be equipped to a teammate. Weiss is chosen as the equipped teammate. At the end phase of player 1's turn, player 2 has elected to use Pyrrha's special ability to fight any character or ally in any home zone. She has a lot to pick from. Rather than target Yang and get hit back with 14 damage, Pyrrha decides to target Weiss. Weiss will only hit back 1 damage because she is tired, while Pyrrha hits 3 for her tapped tired effect as well. Player 2, or Team Juniper, now starts their turn. It is their second turn of the game. Pyrrha untaps during the refresh step, and a card is drawn from that player's deck. Pyrrha decides to move forward into the conflict zone in conflict with both Blake and Penny. Pyrrha targets Penny because she knows if she targets Blake, Blake can just tap and retreat home, and her combat fighting phase would be a waste. Attacking damage is applied first, dealing 6 damage to Penny, more than enough to destroy her, yet she remains on the field to do her defensive damage, and Blake does her defensive damage too, hitting Pyrrha with 6 total damage. Now player 2's fighting phase has resolved. Pyrrha has 7 damage and Penny has been destroyed to the finished pile. Now during player 2's main phase 2, player 2 decides to play Victory Cheer, effectively healing 2 damage from all teammates that player controls. Since a fighting phase has occurred this turn, player 2 also decides to play a Grim card. This Grim card, the Deathstalker, has an added effect. It makes all teammates enter the conflict zone and effectively have conflict with it. This now ends player 2's turn. Player 1 must destroy the Grim on their fighting phase and cannot target them. At the end step, player 1 decides to play Penetrating Shot, destroying Neptune and effectively leaving Ren vulnerable. Now it is player 1's turn 3. They will untap and draw a card. Their fighting phase must happen, so they decide to move Weiss away from the Grim so it can no longer be a target. The Grim actually targets randomly, and this time has decided to target Nora. Everyone else targets the Grim. Rather than have Nora take combat damage, Ren uses his ability to destroy the Grim. There's not much player 1 can do on their turn. They must think about Yang being in a very vulnerable situation and most likely to die next turn, but she gets to take a character with her. Should it be Pyrrha or perhaps Ren? It is pretty much up to you. Also, player 1 has something in their hand. It is a card called Encase. It is an instant card that will allow them to take basically out a character, nullify their combat damage, and make them so they cannot move instantly if they decide to attack Yang. How would you play this scenario? Let me know in the comments below. This ends part 1 of this demonstration. Please like and share this video with all your friends, whether they like RWBY or not or just into card games. Who do you think will win? Please stay tuned to part 2 and thank you for watching this video.